I must begin with complimenting 15 Corps commanded by General Pandey and his decorated officers for organizing this kind of interactive meet. In fact, in my Department of National Security in Central Eastern Jammu, we were very proactively engaged with 16 Corps there. And we used to have a number of such platforms, and I must genuinely compliment you for creating this kind of a platform where crossroad of perceptions come across, and that's how I think a better awareness and sensitization can take place. And we have had a number of such meetings there, and more so I must compliment General Saab for the valor and sacrifice of the Indian Army, which has been unparalleled since 1962 war, when they fought barefooted the Chinese. In this, my family has also contributed. My cousin, late Major Aima, fought with them, laid his life fighting the militants, when next day it was his marriage anniversary and the first birthday of his daughter. So, and he was already granted the leave, but he chose to come back and fight. That's the spirit of the Indian Army, and that's how we stand up to their bravery and commandery what they have. I also welcome other speakers and the members of the civil society speakers, and more so the NCC cadet and the NCC cadets. And so I will be glad to know I am the only central university which has a NCC unit. Last year we have established the NCC unit here in the university, not in the college, and we have NSS unit as well, 2 units, which has become a center of excellence for engaging the youth across the country. They were the kind of things we have tried to take at the university level. Well, Javed Sahib made me a little emotional about what he displayed here. That's a fact, a tragedy. But then doesn't matter. Tragedy has occurred, we have to move forward. And in this regard, I have 2 couplets which can narrate what Javed Sahib was talking about. Lalder shu shu thal thal roza na zan hindu musarman turkai shu tupan prasna swai chhe sahib sanza. And Ahadzargar also possibly said, Yud Khuda aisa se banaun alag alag qawm millat har ek ki aise alag zameen da alag asman. This land has been the land of spirituality, of seekers, not of believers. Seekers. Spirituality is in every, yahan ki zare zare mein spirituality has, spiritual ethos hai. But the travesty of history brought about its own aberrations, which has often happened in Kashmir. But then we have come back, and I'm hopeful that in future we'll do that as well. And what I would like to also share with my young colleagues from NCC and the other places, 90% of the students don't know what's the other name of Jahannam. I was addressing one of the institutions here, where there were professors, who had lecturers, who had students. A 75-year-old man said, that is how history has been not only forgotten, it has been deliberately misinterpreted. That is the reason why today what we are suffering in the Kashmir. What Beksa, I totally agree with him. The cultural moorings cannot be overcome. What Laldat said, what Ahadzargar said, is embedded in our DNA. Whatever might be this temporary aberrations which occur, but eventually the resilience is on the cultural moorings, the roots to which we belong. And I'm sure, inshallah, that is going to happen soon. Other thing which is not talked about in the education institutions here is the rich philosophical, spiritual, medicinal, poetry, drama, right from Abhinav Gupta. It has never been talked about here in J&K. Ask any young boy who is Abhinav Gupta. He would not know him. Ask him what is the names of why Anantnag, why we name it as an Anantnag, why Varma. You know, these kind of distortions were purposely done. You see, let me be very honest with you young boys here. The rise of Islam in Kashmir was not in the dark ages. It was a Brahminical society, and we did not have Varna system here. excuse me, we did not have Dharma. Brahminical society chose to convert, whatever might be, that can be a debate. But a Muslim society essentially came from the Brahminical society, which had a legacy from 5th century BC, from Buddha conference, which had Ibn Guft into it. So that is the kind of distortion which was purposefully done here. I don't know, that probably crisis of identity could be one of the reasons in this. That's why, sir, after, for instance, after Takshila and Nalanda, which was the third revered place of learning seat, was Sharda. And no Pandit, not Pandit in the sense of ritual sense, but the one who is knowledgeable would not complete his degree unless he would not have come and passed the test in Sharda. That was the seat of learning. And today, General Sahib will be amazed to know, go anywhere in part of the world, when they start with the recital of puja, क्या बोलते हैं? नमस्ते माँ शारदा कश्मीर पूर्वासिनी तोहम प्रार्थ निते बुद्धि ज्ञान देहि मुहि. Give me the knowledge, not the salvation, not the heaven, but give me the knowledge. The knowledge has been the epicenter, knowledge seeking has been the basic ethos and moving of the Kashmir civilizational ethos, which has also contributed to Indian ethos. I couldn't escape saying this, that's why I said this. Well, I'll skip up some of the, these what we call, because it was been talked about by Dr. Muzaffar earlier in the drug addiction, so that I'm not going into it. These are the, but you could have my PPT. I have tried what are the behavioral changes which have occurred in the youth, because I have worked with the youth for the last 43 years, right from the university system, know them very easily. And this is something I thought I'd skip to focus on what I would like to speak on. Yes, I'll start from here. Rest you could have possibly my PPT and have a look at it. It has always been made out that the unemployment is driving the youth to militancy and radicalism. There's a lot of debate. No, it's not that. But I think underpinning is yes. Youth, what's youth? Youth is an energy. I have handled them at a very raw level. Youth is energy unexplored. If we channelize it in a productive manner, it can contribute to his personal, societal and nation building. But if same energy is misused, it can take the destructive form which it is taken up here. So it's our responsibility to see how can re-navigate their energies. That's the point I would like to say. Second is, fact is that the misinterpretation of Holy Quran and the call of jihad, which is influencing them, that's something which excites the young men, especially in the madrasas. And you'll be surprised to, from 1975, I have come into later, 1975 onwards, and I think 1975 Sheikh Saab came into being. That was the first time the Allah Wale came here. And they started making their inroads into colleges, into the universities, into the engineering colleges, into the medical colleges. And there slowly from 1975 onwards, the network started building up. And they said, we are preaching the name of Allah. Very good, why not? But there was some hidden agenda into it that can be... 7 decades of governance provided tacit support, that's very true. The governance here from 1948 till about this abrogation of 370. It is playing a tacit role in this because it gave them the dividends. I have been a student of economics. What would happen? The central grants would come and 2 liners would go as a utilization certificate from here. And the next lot, tons of money would come. Nobody will ask me, ye paisa kharcha kahan hai? Now in this present dispensation, I'm no political man, but I'm an understanding. When you use a word direct benefit transfer, that creates an accountability and transparency. You know where money is going. Earlier there was no question of asking where the money was going. There was a huge nexus between the elements of governance, which also included so many, not only the bureaucrats and politicians, there were others also into it. Militancy, especially for the last more than 3 decades, has become an industry. This is very true. I've come with General Sahib every year, 91, 92, 93, I've seen boys with Kalashnikov in Kashmir University. And they knew why I had come, therefore they would respect me for why I had, the purpose for which I had come. They knew I had come for academics. That was the kind of an understanding we must have. Kashmiri genes are very intelligent. Young boys are very, and their communicative skills, their level of intelligence, their comprehension is, I have traveled across the country. It's very good. It's only how do you channelize and direct it. That's the point. And therefore, what is militancy in even present context has become an industry in which you have visible players, in which you have invisible players who get benefited from it. Now I think from last couple of years there is a check into it. Otherwise it was, and their main interest is to keep the pot boiling. It's not the common villager, as my friend said, common man on the street. I also walk unescorted everywhere. I never felt the threat. But then that's a fact. Life is uncertain here. Anybody can take a pot shot here. Policy and policy and perception of the, this is very true. And I hold central government, primarily earlier government, they thought they can keep on purchasing the loyalty of Kashmiri Muslim with money. And it started from 1948. Land reforms have occurred only in Kashmir, J&K, which is un-Islamic, because Quran says you can usurp the land of the others in Mali Ghanim. Here you introduced a political legislation which is almost anti-Quranic in sentiment. How can you usurp? I had 300 canals of land out here. Overnight it was taken out. A political dispensation which is almost anti-Quranic in sentiment. That is the biggest liberation to the Muslim peasantry. Yes, I agree. As a leftist, I say, okay, I have not visited that land for thousands of years. If the peasant gets the ownership, welcome. But it had a political design into it. So that's the real liberation. Ab Bihar mein dikhiye, Chambal mein dikhiye. Peasantry, what's the Pakistan? I have gone thrice as a part of reconciliation argument. It's still controlled by the zamindars, and now by the, what you call the Punjabi bureaucratic, this military apparatus. Nowhere peasantry has been, not even West Bengal, where Mamta ji is there. Land has been transferred to the peasantry. That's the real liberation we're talking about. That's why now what's the reality here for the youth? Why have they gone astray? Madrasas whose main aim was to impart moral and spiritual education. It came from 1975 onwards. They created a network. क्या था concept? Believers and non-believers. ये जो हमारे दोस्त भी कह रहे थे. Believers, so you started differentiating. Believers, which was not earlier there. I don't know how far my friends would agree here. 70 to 80% of the boys who joined militancy belong to the underprivileged caste. कश्मीर में बताता हूँ आपको. Tandar, Kandar, Wandar, Puj, Gur. Take their, I mean.
Sorry to interrupt you, I call it Pasmanda caste.
Okay, okay. But I'm categorizing them. As a sociologist, I say, who are these Pasmanda Kone? 80%, 85%, I would safely say 80% of the boys who joined militancy belong to the 6 underprivileged countries. उनका लूट हो रही है यहाँ पे. And the first thing they jumped into, and there are dozens of illustrations where I can tell you, the hand boy who was outside the gate became an override commander, demanded the marriage of a daughter in hand. What happened thereafter? So what is that? Class war. When you see, it's a typical Marxian analogy. Haves and have-nots. Only the instrument became the militancy because it gave you the gun. Gun means abduction, rape, appropriating of government and private lands. This all became free. You'll be general surprised. Take IIT Kharagpur's, no. 2005, construction the valley to 2015, fivefold. 2015 to 2021, there's hardly any land where you don't have. You have to outsource the beggars here also. You don't have a local beggar here. You have to outsource the beggars. I see the construction, all wetlands are gone. We are talking of Azadi, you are talking of militancy, you are talking of central government's what you call repression and depression. How is this richness coming? आपके यहाँ तो local carpenter नहीं है, local barber नहीं है, local beggar नहीं है. No, this that's what he rightly used. Somebody used a word. total denial. My friend from the, what you call this, drug abuse, when he made a mass denial, नहीं साहब कि हमारे यहाँ होता ही नहीं है. But that is a fallacy within which Kashmir civil society suffers from denial of the reality. Such an effluence. There's a mass, check up the meat consumption which comes from Lakhanpur border. Highest meat consumption is here. In a lighter vein, I may tell you, there was a comparison from a Jammu. देखो यार जम्मू के जो कुत्ते होते हैं 10-12 किलो के होते हैं और कश्मीर में साला 60 किलो का कुत्ता होता है. I'm telling you, that's a fact. Because they eat out so much of leftover meat that because now there's diabetes, unfortunately it has its own consequences. People have become diabetic, they become, talk to Dr. Sushil Razdan, and from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 in the night, there's a line of young boys and girls whom he treats for the psychiatric problems. It has its own counterproductive argument. But the matter of fact, there's a, what you call gluttonous consumption here, gluttonous construction here. And we're talking of Azadi. Isn't it a self-defeating argument? It's a bogey. And this is the right time we need to address it to the civil society. Yeah, there are political aspirations. Nobody, we have Jharkhand, we have Maoism, that has happened everywhere. Sub-regional aspirations, political aspirations are there. That's true of any society. That's not into this. Youth became a cannon fodder for this. That's why I thought I would share with this. I mean, nobody talks about this. This is a class war here. One thing, top militant of Anantnag will not make his house there. He will make it in Baramulla. A Baramulla militant will make it Anantnag because there he will say, hey, no Chwam. Because in locality he is known. I mean, how is he was a construction contractor, beggar. How is that made a palatial house? So they hide their identities. That's a distortion which you have to negotiate here. Lastly, way forward. I think there's an integrated approach you have to work with. There's nothing like anybody can do it alone. We have to integrate. What we have to integrate is community level, school level, and government level. They have to come into partnership. It cannot be done alone by anybody. They have to integrate together on a single platform periodically, and you can go through it, what I mean to say. For instance, one thing which has happened very recently, Government of India has brought in a special package known as Business Incubation Center and Entrepreneurship. I think they need to be broad-based in new education policy, in which I was a core member while it was being drafted at UGC. In fact, I drafted the implementation part of the new education policy. From 6th standard, we need to impart skills to the students so that their career options are known to him. And we may be able to generate startups and new entrepreneurs. As I said, the Kashmiri boy and the talent, they are very intelligent boys. What they lack is the opportunities and the platform. So I think from 6th standards, we need to integrate. Now, principal of a school doesn't know why to give apprenticeship. So he has to integrate with the local industry, local field, that is agriculture, horticulture, animal husbandry, so that they get meaningful skill orientation. You impart them right from 15 years, 12 years onwards. So they become skillful, not educated, because education does not give the employment anymore now. You have to be employable, you have to be skillful. So where do you start from? You start from the schools. You start from the colleges. You start from and you create a network right from the high schools to the colleges to the universities, where the youth is made the main focus. And see, we have about 80 more than 80 degree colleges. We have about 1,400 high schools in. If we can, such a vast army of young learners, if we can integrate them into an apprenticeship mode, skill orientation mode, I think we would have possibly given a better response than only seeing it as a militancy related or anti-militancy related operations. I don't think that is going to give us a lot better benefits. That's one point. Second point, I would like to say that there should be what you call at school level, which is impressionable age, right from the 6th standard onwards, to prevent youth from becoming the what you call the easily vulnerable to the ideological, it's not idea, it's a religious distortion which has been created. I think they need to now include rich curricula of Kashmir and Jammu at this place. Please go through the textbooks. You will hardly find any reference to Abhinav Gupta, as my friend was talking about. There's hardly any reference to Sharda, and you'll be surprised to know there is special, whatever you may say, in Muzaffarabad University, there is special center which protects now the Sharda heritage and their culture. There's a young professor out there who is working on that. We need to recreate awareness about the richness of our cultural heritage, and it should start from the schools. Lastly, the government level. I think what has the present government done, they have mercifully done the best thing. They empowered the grassroots level democracy. So they need better financial powers so that they monitor and participate into it. And lastly, General Sir, this dependency syndrome, which is very heavily inflicted the Kashmir psyche, कि सारा जो करना 5 करोड़ का मकान होगा पर सड़क बाहर खराब है, इसमें कूड़ा नहीं उठाना, ये सरकार का काम है. I think this dependency syndrome has to be taken off. I'll give one example only of this. My friend, I had my tears in my eyes when he showed those. But Kashmiri Pandit community did not pick up the guns. They did not become the drug users, though we have some evidence in Jagti campus because of this. I was in California attending my son is joined as a faculty in Stanford University, probably only Kashmiri to be in there. We had a party I had 80 Kashmiri Pandit families, out of them 70 were from first time villagers from Kopwara, Badgam, Baramulla. First time they had left, doing mercifully well. So how does the youth channelizes energy? We have to become the facilitators. There is nothing like this is the first time the government of India, with the able support of the forces, has been able to establish this writ, what you call, and that writ has paying its dividend, and we need to continue to support this writ. It cannot be anybody's, anybody can walk in and walk out with it. They can't flirt with the nationalistic agenda. That is done, that's all. I think and lastly, sir, this is my personal request to you, you need to expand the mandate of Sadbhavana, because it's a non-traditional role for army. Apart from defending the borders, you have been engaged, but I think we can sit together. I think army has become an alternate intervention for governance. As long as it is there, we need to further upgrade its agenda, especially in the rural areas. Rural areas, no, I'm not worried about Titwal, Tangda, because those are Gujar belts, but South Kashmir, yes. North to a lesser extent, but South Kashmir, they need to develop a mechanism where the young youth is engaged, their energies are channelized, so that the incidence of their joining the militancy is reduced. Not that I can guarantee that, but that's surely. So we'll have to do zoning, vulnerability zoning, and see which has the most problem, therefore rechannelize our Sadbhavana engagement there to a lesser entire outer belt of Punch, Rajouri. You can have odd incidences. So that's not there you can do. But here I would request you, General Sahab, you have been such a as being talked about, that a very positive person to engage the civil society. Please revisit your Sadbhavana in those areas where we have the incidence of higher rates, so that we can expand the mandate and get the youth in. Because what is reassuring is with the excitement with which the young boys from Valley are joining the army. That is very positive. यहाँ तो आप बात ही नहीं कर पाते थे. Thank you very much, sir. Pleasure.